Welcome and thanks for joining us. We're here at the Liberty Man channel. We're going to be looking today at another installment of what the Declaration of Independence calls the appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world. So once again, we want to stick with the original documents as much as we possibly can so that you can see that I am not a philosopher or a great thinker. I research, I read the documents, I explain them to the best of my ability, and then let you decide what you want to do with it. But these are the original documents. So we're going to start off here with the Declaration of Independence. And it says here in the concluding paragraph that the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assemble, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions. And then they close, and for the support of this declaration with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Now, this is so far away from the normal thinking of the American people that it's astounding. We should know this by heart as little children and know exactly what it means and the importance of it, but we've never been taught it. So the chances of us knowing it are nil. But this Supreme Judge of the world is coming boldly before the throne of grace to find help in time of need. During the Revolution, they kept redressing their grievances, and they kept getting ignored or just totally abused to the point where they said, we have no more appeals to the government that we're under. We have no other appeal than directly to the throne of God. And you have to have a biblical understanding of what this means. In the Old Testament especially, and the first centuries of Christianity, the world had their gods, plural gods. And as we've shown in other videos that we did, it was whose God is bigger than the other one. Prime example is David and Goliath. Goliath was demeaning the God of Israel. David comes in there and says, I represent the God of Israel. And it was who wins this because of God was on their side. That's how they looked at things. Then we see with Dagon in the Ark of the Covenant that the children of Israel looked to the idol more than they did the author or the creator, and they lost the battle. And the Philistines stole the ark and put it in their temple in front of their god Dagon. And so that tells us that, or is an example of being judged by the gods. So they figured that Dagon won the battle for them and they had captured the God of the Israelites. Well, we saw in that record that Dagon fell over and broke apart. And so they did everything they could to get that Ark of the Covenant back to the Israelites. So anyway, that's what this means. Trial by God. Is God going to bless you or not? It says here that they were appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world on the Great Seal of the United States. Go look at our video on that one. It's on our website. And you can see the definition of annuit coeptus. And that is telling the world on the Great Seal that the result or the verdict of this trial here the appeal to the supreme judge of the world. It's God has ruled in our favor, or God has God has ruled in our favor. Just leave it at that. But it's the individual's firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, is that trust in believing that God is going to rule in your favor when it comes down to it. So with that in mind, that's why we're doing this series of court cases of appealing to the supreme judge of the world. Now, we're going to end up doing a lot of these. I mean, I can think of at least a dozen, if not 20 or more, that we could easily do. So I just wanted to remind people, if you haven't seen any of our other ones, I think this is episode 5, maybe. But today we're going to look at a case that I call, this one was plea dealed and settled out of court. And so I think, well, obviously I think that you would enjoy it, or I wouldn't be wasting my time to make this video. But we're going to go all the way back to the beginning of America, and we're going to look at their personal records, their eyewitness accounts of how things transpired with the original Pilgrims. So it says here, and this is after, this is a book written by Cotton Mather, and it's called Magnalia Christi Americana. And loosely translated, it's how God blessed us, the magnificence of God's blessings, or something along those lines. But you can go back and read the title for yourself. But it's, you know, the wonder workings of God in the people that settled here. And you see providence all over the place. So just even right here, over here, the very singular providence of God. Okay, so this is at the time where the first winter, where the Indians left the Pilgrims alone, but half the Pilgrims died of disease and malnutrition and exposure. So by the time the spring rolled around, there was a little over half of the 101 that got off the boat. But, and you can tell that this book is very, very old. This book was written in 1702, but this is one of the first complete histories of America at that time. And he's taken all of this from eyewitness accounts, from people that he actually knew, and also from the writings of the original Pilgrims themselves. So this would be precedent for American appealing to the throne of God, appealing to the supreme judge of the world. One of the flags of the American Revolution was an appeal to heaven. But what a wonder was it that the bloody savages far and near did not cut off this little remnant. If he had once muzzled the lions ready to devour the man of desires, had not admirably, I had almost said miraculously, restrained them, these had been all devoured. But this people of God were come into a wilderness to worship him. And so he kept their enemies from such attempts as would otherwise have soon annihilated this poor handful of men, thus far already diminished. They saw no Indians all the winter long, but such as at the first sight always ran away. Yea, they quickly found that God had so turned the hearts of these barbarians as more to fear than to hate his people, thus cast among them. This blessed people was a little flock of kids, baby goats, while there were many nations of Indians left still as kennels of wolves in every corner of the country, and yet the little flock suffered no damage from these rapid wolves. We may and should say, this is the Lord's doing. 'Tis marvelous in our eyes. But among the many causes to be assigned for it, one was this. It was afterwards by them confessed, the Indians. The Indians told Bradford and the rest of the surviving pilgrims, this is why we left you alone. And this court case right here was why the local Indians wanted to make a peace treaty with the pilgrims so quickly without knowing anything about them. That first spring after the winter, where half of them died, the Indians came to them to put together a peace agreement. That's a different thing for a different day. But it is on the Forefathers Monument if you want to go listen to our work on that. But among the many causes to be assigned for it, for the Indians leaving them alone, one was this. It was afterwards by them confessed that upon the arrival of the English in these parts, the Indians employed their sorcerers, whom they called Powahs, like Balaam, to curse them and to let loose their demons upon them, to shipwreck them, to distract them, to poison them, or any way to ruin them. All the noted Powahs in the councils spent 3 days together in diabolical conjurations to obtain the assistance of the devils against the settlement of these English. So when we go back to with Dagon, the king of the Philistines was talking to his diviners and soothsayers and conjurers. You know, what are we supposed to do about this stuff? We saw that Saul lost the kingship because he sought divination from the witch of Endor. And then here he's quoting the Bible about Balaam, how Balaam had sent Balak sent Balaam to curse the Jews or the children of Israel. But anyway, these guys were consulting with the devil and trying to get the devil to do their bidding, which was to wipe all the white people off the map before their ships could even reach the shore. And here's the verdict of this court. See, they did a plea deal and settled out of court. So, and here's where I get that from. But the devils at length acknowledged unto them, to the Indians, that they could not hinder those people from their becoming the owners and makers of the country. Whereupon the Indians resolved upon a good correspondence with our newcomers, and God convinced them that there was no enchantment or divination against such a people. There you go. This case was settled out of court before it was ever tried in a feat of arms. Before it got to the killing, this case was settled by God. But notice this here. The devils recognized, just like the Philistines did, that the God of Israel was bigger than all the gods of Egypt. They didn't want to mess with them. But generations and generations, they still kept coming back for more. But here, God ruled in the favor of the pilgrims and settled this case before it ever got in the courts, that he was bigger than all the nations of the Indians, and their own witch doctors or diviners or sorcerers or whatever you want to use the term, the Powahs. They spent 3 days consulting their gods to take out the white man. But God told the Indians by their own soothsayers and sorcerers, you got to make friends with these people because their God is bigger than all of our gods put together. There is no enchantment or divination against such a people. Now, I think personally that is one of the coolest things that I have ever seen. But that's real history. That's really what happened in Plymouth, that God was on the side of the people who put their firm reliance on the protection of divine providence to come over here. They had to forsake all to follow him, literally. They gave up their cities, their towns, their friends, their relatives to get on a boat that had never crossed the ocean to come to a place that was filled full of wild Indians, wild savages, and they knew all the horror stories from about other settlements, especially Jamestown. And yet they still risked the challenge just to come over here so they could start what they called a Christian commonwealth. But it was the Indians that approached them and said, we want to make peace with you before the war even starts. And they signed the first international treaty in America, the precedent for international treaties, which has to do with the laws of nature and of nature's God. And it was very simple. You don't mess with us, we won't mess with you. If our people mess with your people, then your people get to try them by your rules. If your people mess with us, we get to try them by our rules. If somebody wants to pick on you, we're gonna help support you and defend you. If somebody comes and wants to attack us, then you're gonna come defend us. And that one peace treaty lasted over 50 years. So with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, and with taking your final appeal to the supreme judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, we look forward to annuit coeptis, that God will rule in our favor. But one thing I want to admonish to you and to all of you is don't wait for the final appeal to go before the throne of grace. Because it tells us in Hebrews to come boldly before that throne of grace to find help in time of need. So whatever you need, go boldly before the courts and demand justice. God, you promised that you would do this. Do it. I'm calling you on the carpet. I'm calling this scripture right here. I'm claiming it for my own. You have the right to do that as a Christian. So anyway, God bless, you're the best. And the only way, or literally the only way that we're going to overcome the challenges that we face is with the grace of God. There's no way we can stand up to multitudes of evil. Even if the whole world ganged up on us, as long as there is a standing believer with a firm alliance on the protection of divine providence, there's a prayer that can be answered. There's a miracle that can happen. So don't stress or fret over all the problems and focus on all the negatives, and these people are doing that, those people are doing that. Focus on prayer. Focus on deliverance. Focus on miracles. Because it is going to take a miracle, folks, for us to get out of this poop if our grandkids are going to have a future. So if you want to know more cool stuff like this, go to our website at libertyman.online. You can send me an email and I will answer your question to the best of my ability. Just like I did this video, I will find the original document and I will read it to you in a little video and then explain it to you to the best of my ability to explain it with the scope of things. And then you share it with your people. And then you decide how you are going to implement this in your town, in your village, or, just your neighborhood even. But that's what it's going to take, is a unified effort all the way across the country to get back to the basics of what made America great. We're one nation under God for a reason. We're under the ruling authority of the supreme ruler, supreme judge of the world. And if we want him to bless us, all we got to do is do what he asked us to do in the only book that he gave us to guide us, and that is the Holy Bible. So God bless. You're the best. Look forward to seeing you the next time, and look forward to hearing from you on our website so that we can answer the specific questions that you have with your needs in your area. So with that, I'm going to sign off here and say good night and God bless once again.